Hi, everyone, and welcome to Getting to the Point with Sue Zabilka. I am your host, Cindy Skalicki with On Point Communications. And today I'm excited to bring to you some tips about how to look the best that you can on your Zoom calls. We all know that Zoom calls bring a little bit of extra and different type of nervousness and for some, flat out anxiety about being viewed so close up with calls that we're doing together on Zoom. So the backstory of this a little bit is that, as I started to do more and more Zoom calls during this time, we're currently in quarantine here due to COVID-19, but I was, doing so much additional time spent to kind of freshen up and be sure I felt good and presentable on screen. And I thought, gosh, there's a lot of women out there that I know who are doing the same thing. And we know we don't always have to be perfect for certain calls because it's a touch point call with a client we've had for 4 or 5 years, or it's with friends. But there definitely are times when we want to look and feel our best if we're presenting a proposal, if we are pitching, if we are doing any kind of, polished speaking. And so I thought, what better guest to have than my good friend Sue Zabilka, who has 30 plus years in the industry and really is a master at makeup application and tips. So I would like to introduce you all to Sue. Sue's out of Lamont, Illinois, and we met, gosh, Sue, what, 15 years ago maybe? I actually ended up being one of Sue's consultants, and Yep. And I sold Mary Kay for about 5 or 6 years while my kids were little. And Sue and I have become very good friends. Sue, why don't you tell us a little about your history with Estee Lauder and Mary Kay, and then I would love to talk about some of the challenges that Zoom calls bring to kick us off.
Sure. Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm thrilled to be able to share any tips that might be beneficial to your audience. But my goodness, my degree is in dietetics and nutrition, so actively pursuing that. But I worked at Marshall Fields, for those of you who remember Marshall Fields, down on State Street. And I was in the restaurant division there, managing the restaurants, the Walnut Room, with the big Christmas tree, but spent all my time down in the cosmetic department because I had to get off that floor. I had to get away from food, and just started realizing that it was much more fun to play with makeup than it was to be up there, dealing with some customers and interesting situations. But anyhow, so I started with Estee Lauder. I worked there for 10 years. But then going downtown, and I was the makeup artist for Estee Lauder, and the retail hours were just not conducive once I got married and started having a family. So my husband, who was a high school teacher at Glenbard South, came home one day and said, Sue, one of the ladies at school today is with Mary Kay, and I think that you should talk with her and work this from home. So there started my Mary Kay career, and I've just learned so much. I said, I think I learned more about the art of application, and the beauty of it was teaching people, just like how we're going to do today, how to get the look itself. When I was the makeup artist at Marshall Fields, people would say, oh, I wish I could just take you home with me. Well, that's never going to happen. So it's much smarter to be able to educate somebody to do this on their own. And I feel like that's where Mary Kay's genius was to give women that confidence that, yes, this is not hard. I can teach you a skill just as I have been taught.
Right.
And that's where it came.
That's one of the things I loved about the philosophy behind Mary Kay. It's that, when I'm a teacher at heart too. And so I loved the ability to teach people how to apply the makeup products so that when they got home, they were on their way and they could do it themselves versus me sitting them in the chair and making them look amazing. It's like a hairdresser. You just steps out of the salon look. Well, I wanted to, and you do this all the time, teach people how to do it at home so that you're not touching their face, but they're learning the skill set that they need in order to apply it and look great every day. So yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. There's others that are joining us, and we're going to take some little breaks to take questions, but please feel free to chat it in. Hope, welcome. And Arizona chapter, we're happy to have you as well. Would love to if you'd like to pipe in, just let us know. Sue,
Great.
so talk to us about some of the things that you feel are kind of problematic when it comes to video calls. What do you know, what are the challenges that you see with being on screen versus in person?
Okay. So as we kind of touched upon, I think before we started recording, was the difference between being, you know, in a meeting around a conference table, or, you know, somewhere where you're seeing a much more, you see more of you versus the little screen where everything seems to be magnified. And
Right.
so, you know, I was saying that, you know, we used to do in Mary Kay, a 5-minute, we called it a dashing out the door look, something that made you look presentable. But now we're calling it a dashing to the dining room table look, because I know many of you are probably doing these Zoom calls. I know my sister, who is a executive rep for Cartier, she's doing them sometimes at 6 a.m. in the morning. And she's like,
Wow.
just because she's doing it with Geneva, Switzerland, and, you know, different things like that. And she's like, you know, I have to look really good at 6 in the morning. So, but let's face it, we all have kids that are home now, you know, not many of us do, that are e-learning, and there's a lot of life going on. So we don't have time to spend 15, 20 minutes. So what I thought I would just talk about was maybe quick tips that can make you look presentable and you feel confident, because let's face it, the more you just, if you take that 5 minutes in the morning, then you can take the focus off yourself and you can feel comfortable and be focused on what you're supposed to be, your presentation or your conversation. Okay, the meeting.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I thought that's great. That's a great way to kind of segue into the content. Let's kind of dive in here and get going on what we want to talk through. And we'll do face first, eyes second, lips third, and we'll kind of pause after each one to talk through any questions or specific application steps or tips people would like to learn. You know, I have wide eyes or dark eyes, or, you know, pale skin or whatever. But I know step one is about your skin and the foundation and the moisturizer that you put in. So just to kind of, you know, align this with On Point, right? When you look at messaging, you need a good foundation. And when you're applying makeup, you need a good foundation. So Sue, take us through kind of what should we have on our faces before we start applying color, and why?
Okay. So definitely moisturizer. Moisturizer is a very big factor. And the one thing I was mentioned too was the water. Make sure you're drinking a lot of water, because I will tell you that's one thing I could add my little dietetics background into this. Hydration is so important, and it shows in your skin. Yes, it really does, you know. And so if you're just drinking coffee all day or whatever, coffee actually adds to dark circles around your eyes. So it's, so you really want to be careful. It's fine to have, trust me, there is no one that loves coffee more than me, but make sure you're adding a bottle of water for every cup of coffee that you're having, okay? Then a good moisturizer, and definitely an eye cream. I just was showing, you know, I love our Mary Kay Firming eye cream just because I love the pump. I'm all about packaging. It's got to be easy to apply and easy for me to get to, because we're always beating the clock, right? So make sure you're putting some type of an eye cream on prior to putting on any kind of concealer or something, because otherwise that's when people tend to say it gets cakey, is because there's been nothing, your skin will absorb anything it gets. If there's no moisturizer, it'll take the foundation and pretend that's the moisturizer and try to absorb it to get the moisture from it. And that's when you start feeling that, seeing that cakiness and, you know, maybe some unflattering look that you might not want. So I would say the moisturizer is key. Then I truly believe in a primer, okay? I love the Mary Kay primer, but any foundation primer, just how when you would be painting your walls, you would prep them first and you would put a primer on. It kind of fills in the little nooks and crannies. So a good primer is key, okay? So that would be first. Then I would say, at least, I know some people say I'm not a big foundation person. I don't, you know, like that, but for the purpose of these calls and just to look professional, at least a CC cream or a BB cream. CC stands for color correcting, because I mean, there are a few people out on in the world that have that perfect ivory skin no matter what. They were just born with it, but I don't happen to be one of them. And if you do fall in that category, that it just evens out any discoloration you might have. It gives you that nice palette to start with. So you want to even that out. It's amazing the difference that just a good little CC cream or a foundation will make. And so
Sue,
that's where I would, with the
I was
skin.
going to say, I'm sorry. I was just going to tell you, I feel this, I like within the last year or two, I have been like, okay, I can't get away with that anymore. I have got to start doing daily foundation, and, you know, you know, just that over 40 component has kicked
Right.
in officially for me. And so I have been going through more tubes of foundation. So I think that I'm
Yes.
not able to resist that much anymore.
Right.
So,
And
okay, so moisturizer, primer, foundation, and probably some kind of powder is what I'm guessing you're going to go with
yes.
next.
So I definitely think a little bit of a powder, whether you use a pressed powder or a loose powder. A lot of people ask me which is better. To me, it doesn't matter what powder you use. What matters is make sure you put it on with a brush, okay? Whether you want a flat, like a flat tip, if you're going to use a loose mineral powder and put it all over, or a nice big fluffy brush, you'll get the same effect, but it really does give your foundation longevity. It will wear much longer for you, and it kind of puts like a soft filter on your face, just kind of like a camera lens does when you want to just kind of soften that. So you definitely want to make sure you set it with a little bit of powder.
Awesome. Good. And one tip I tell my daughters now who are old enough to start using makeup is when you dip your brush into the powder and you pull it up, be careful. There's a big bunch right on the top. And so I
Yes.
remember you teaching me, don't blow into the brush, blow across the brush this way so that it doesn't get, you know, further into the brush bristles. But there is
Right.
actually kind of an art to how to, you know, prep your application tips.
Well,
Yeah.
and like our powder now has it where for the loose powder, if you just turn it over and go like this and then you unscrew it, the proper amount is on the lid. So then you can just kind of dip it and you don't get that big glob anymore. So you don't waste.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Well, do we have any questions coming in from others who would like to share their experiences with foundations or powders, or any specific questions?
I don't think I have any specific questions, but I'll just say that I've noticed I have to change seasonally what I use. So I'm a big fan of BB cream. In the winter, though, I can typically bump it up to a CC or a full foundation because it's colder and my skin responds. But I used to have like oily T-zone. So that's where it's like if I would put foundation on, I sweat. And that's part of why, even though it looks beautiful on people, I don't wear it in the summer because it's too much. But the BB cream, you know, I could use more, I'm sure, but it helps a little bit. But I've just found like with the seasons, I kind of have to have a different kind of kit or set. And I don't know.
And I remember talking with you about that a lot, Sue, just how that even the color of your foundation can change and shift depending on the season because of the sun you might be getting or not getting in the
Absolutely.
winter. Yeah,
absolutely. And that a lot of people do, they change for the season. And that's good, that, you know, especially if you have oily skin, that does make a difference.
And then a little blush, right, Sue, just to get some cheek color.
Just, your basic rule of thumb is 2 fingers from the nose, 2 fingers down from the eyes. Just kind of, they always say you should look like you just went on a nice brisk walk, like you have some, you know, healthy blood flow. But you don't want to, definitely don't want to go too much on the cheek color.
And you don't want like this big line that goes,
no.
you know, you want soft, natural, right?
The tools are so important. I always say invest in one good brush set where because they always say Michelangelo did not paint the Sistine Chapel with Q-tips and little plastic applicators. Okay, it's all about the tools that you use. So that's very important.
Awesome. Well, let's move to eyes because I know this is a big one, and I remember, you know, I remember learning some of the tips when I first trained with you, Sue, about eyes, and I learned a lot. And one of the first things that I loved learning and still use with people, anyone who's asking, and my daughters are 16 and 14 doing their own makeup more and more. So the eyebrow, show us the 3 points of the eyebrow and how to know how to shape it. And then maybe you can touch on other pieces that help make you look really alert and focused on Zoom calls for eyes.
Sure. Okay, so for the eyebrows, that is so important. I always tell people eyebrows are like the picture frame for your eye. So it is very important that you do have them and that it's not too much. It doesn't overtake your eye. Okay. So the best, for people wanting to know where it should start and where it should stop, I always say, just take a brush and put it right up to right alongside of your nose. And that's where it typically should start, right here. Then if you kind of put it across the pupil of the eye, okay, then that's where the arch should be. And then if you're like on a 45-degree angle here, like going to the end of your eye, that's where it should end. And I feel like the biggest issue people have is maybe they tweezed a little too much in their high school years or did whatever, and it's gone. And then they don't fill it back in. Like I see people whose eyebrows stop right here, and then people look at it like your eye stops there. So all it takes, if you're hesitant to use a brow pencil, or it just kind of intimidates you a little bit, I always just say, take an angled brush and put it in a neutral. I have like a hazelnut color, which is like just a little, like a brown, a light brown, but a matte. Make sure you're using a matte shadow. And then I just take it, and then, you just kind of little bit, you just kind of wisp it in there and just elongate a little bit to make sure that your brow is complete. Okay. Or start with a blonde eyebrow pencil. I have used a blonde eyebrow pencil on people with hair color from blonde all the way to black, because it's like a taupe, and it fills in, and that's a good place to start if for some reason it intimidates you. Okay.
Absolutely.
Does that help?
That's huge. And my daughter, there's actually like eyebrow trends, right? I mean, sometimes it's like it's in to be bushy eyebrowed and not tweezed. And sometimes you find, in the magazines and such, now there's like a very, like drawing out your eyebrows and filling them in with really like rigid corners out there, and they look beautiful. I couldn't wear them that way, but I've noticed a big shift in eyebrow trends, and so I think doing what's comfortable for you.
Yes, the razor, what do they call it? That's the huge trend right now is to do it, but it is very expensive, and you have to keep up with it. I mean, I have friends that are spending $700 to go get it done, and then they have to go like every 3 months. I'm just like, I don't know, unless that's something that's really huge to you. I mean, if that's where you want to spend your time and money, that's fine. But I would say, you can do a lot on your own. And if you want it a little thicker and fuller, that's that the trend now is a little fuller brow. Right. But again, I always tell people, no matter what the trends are, you need to honestly look at yourself in the mirror and say, does this trend work for me? Okay. Right. I mean, where do I look the best and feel the best? Because it's not always.
And I feel like, and I feel like if you forget about a Zoom call and you totally forgot that you have one coming up in 5 minutes, eyebrows and a quick curl of your eyelashes with a swift eyeliner on the top lid, and you are good. But don't forget the eyebrows.
Yes. Yeah. Because otherwise you look lost. You do look lost.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So tell us about eyeliner and maybe a little quick thing on shadow, and we'll move.
So one thing, first, before you do anything with your eyes, I get the concealer, and I call it, it's called under eye corrector, but this is like if I was lost on a desert island and I could bring one thing with me, this is it, because what it does, you just kind of dot it here, 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 here. And then I put a couple dots on the lid as well. And I just kind of pat my finger around it, because the thing is on the lids, if you have more olive skin tone, it tends to be darker up there. Or if you have lighter skin tone, it tends to be maybe a purple or pink veiny, this, because it's a light. But the skin around your eyes is the thinnest skin you have on your entire body, which is why everything is visible there. When you don't get a good night's sleep, when you don't feel good, everything, it's always shown around your eyes. So that's why that's why you do need a separate eye cream that will penetrate that skin. And you do need a little extra coverage. So I start with the under eye corrector, put that all over. And then I put, for the Zoom calls, I highly recommend putting like a light shadow right here, just as Hope was saying, you want to make your eyes look bigger. Put the light shadow on the lid here, because it kind of brightens up. It like makes your eyes pop, the color of your eye pop, and it makes you look awake. Okay. That's one of the things we teach, is to we all want to look awake. Put the light color here. I use a little bit of a cream eyeshadow. We call it light beam. And just to give it something to cling to, that goes on. And then I put a matte white, like a cream right here, just to give that. You don't want anything too shimmery, especially on the Zoom calls, because it's too distracting. You know, shimmer has a time and place, but it's usually out for a nice candlelit dinner or, you know, something like that.
Yep.
But for a Zoom call, you want it like more matte. Then if you want like a mid-tone, just to give your eye a little dimension, that's what would go right in through here. Okay, this is the, like in the crease. And for this, you want just enough that when you open your eye, you see it, but you definitely don't want it going up to the brow. You definitely want to keep room up there so that you can just put a matte, kind of like a cream shadow, eyeshadow. And then this is where it's so important that you blend. They always say, be like a windshield wiper. Just go back and forth with your eyeshadow with your brush. Because they always taught us in every class, when you're thinking, blend, blend, blend. And when you think you're done blending, blend one more time.
Blend one more time.
So just blend. And if you want to put a little bit in the outer corner for a pop, you know, if you've got a big pitch with your boss or a potential client, that's great. If you want to give it, I have a little bit just in the outer corner here, that's fine. But the most important thing is the eyeliner. Eyeliner is more important than mascara or eyeshadow because, again, it defines the eye. I recommend I like a sponge tip, black waterproof for the lid. Now, going to the question, it is always okay to only do the top and leave the bottom alone, but it is never okay to only do the bottom and leave the top alone. Okay, that's a big no-no in the glamour.
But I have seen that, and I have yet to figure out a way to tell a person, which, you know, you just can't if they're not like a best friend, right? But she would do only the bottom and a lot of the bottom, and it brings your face down, right?
Down. It draws everything down. Yeah. So you want to draw everything up and out.
Up. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Up.
Okay.
So I personally, a lot of people do like just on the top, and that's fine. I personally just have always felt like it's more complete with having a little bit, you know, but then I use just like a pencil on the bottom, and it's like a gray. It's not the black, it's softer. Now, depending on your eye color, if you have darker eyes, you can get away with darker eyeliner colors. But I just use a gray, and I go about halfway to 3/4, and my eye is tearing because I have allergies in the Midwest right now. So excuse me for that. So just a little bit about halfway to 3/4 on the bottom. And then
it makes such a difference. Yeah.
It makes such a difference.
Really, yeah.
And then for the mascara, I highly recommend an eyelash curler. It really gives your eyelashes that pop. I know many people that have very long eyelashes. I've done makeovers on them, but they're poker straight and you can't even see them. So I recommend a metal eyelash curler and put it with your blow dryer just for a couple seconds. It warms it up and it gives it like a curling iron effect. And then you just kind of a couple pumps, hold it there, especially if you've got a lot of Zoom calls and you're going to be on for a while. It gives it staying power. Okay.
Just be careful you don't burn your skin, right?
Yeah, just make sure you don't do it too hot, right?
Blow it a little bit first. You don't want to have red marks here because you burned yourself.
What will not be appealing on the Zoom call?
Right. No.
Big scar.
You can cover it up, but you know, let's not go there.
Yeah. And then mascara after you curl your eyelashes. Okay. Yes. The mascara goes after. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So that's eyes.
Good. Any questions from anybody here on eyes, or just like one tip that really helped you? I was just gonna say that the bottom liner is something I really think helps so much on calls, because I often go out with just a top liner when I'm doing my regular day. But when people are looking at me, and especially when you have to pretend you're looking into people's eyes on Zoom, you have to stare at the camera. And when you're being looked at, you know, you kind of want that full, it makes you feel and appear more attentive, in my opinion, when you're doing calls and you've got a little bit of extra liner on. I lost my thought on something that I was going to say about eyes. So if it comes back to me, I'll definitely
no problem.
Bring it back. But let's go to lips. I will tell a short story about someone. So I have a YouTube channel, as most of you know, and I got a call from someone who's kind of like in an advisor role for me. And he said, Cindy, that video you did on XYZ, it's great content, but you have to take the video down. your lips are far too bright and deep, and it looks, you just didn't look like yourself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I will, so I went back and I looked at it, and I had been wearing like a deep maroon top, and I put on, I think it might've been a new lip color, or I did a little bit extra to kind of match it, with my shirt. And it was too harsh. And so, I was I try to be very open-minded when I get any kind of feedback, but of course I was like, oh, all right, I will look at that. But I looked at it and he was right. So talk to us, Sue, about lip color, because I'm not a super pinky lip color person in real life, but on calls, I feel like that lighter color is a little better. So tell us what to do.
Sure. And the thing is, it's the same color family that you feel comfortable with is still probably fine. It's just, again, because your face is more magnified in these calls, and you probably don't see a lot of that beautiful sweater that picks up the wine color and things like that, because you're only seeing from here up. So you have to tone it down a bit. That's the thing. So I do recommend doing a lip liner. And if you don't really like a lot of pink or whatever, you can do in a neutral lip liner, or a nude, or there's a medium or whatever. And just kind of, or a dusty pink or dusty whatever, just something soft, but fill in your lip with it. You start here and you make a V, and then kind of go around, but fill in the lip. There's nothing worse than having just that ring around the lip either, if your lipstick does wear off. So you want to fill, it's got to be a lip liner that you're comfortable enough with that you can fill in, or at least sketch in a lot of your lip with it. And then you can really just kind of go over it with a very light lip gloss or a clear lip gloss. And, or even just a light lipstick too. I find lip glosses are a little bit more, they're just softer, and they seem, even if you watch the news, you notice that the anchor women always have lip gloss on because it gives a softer look. And the warmer colors, this is something interesting, warmer colors tend to make your teeth look whiter, where bluer colors, like if you have a real deep red, or sometimes the wine or whatever, can make your teeth look more yellow. So that's why it is good to wear do you remember, not a lot of your clients are probably too young, but back, when that J-Lo look was really big, where she did that brown mocha frost, like that mocha freeze look. Yes. Well, that became such a trend because that's when the teeth whitening was like first becoming a big deal. Mm-hmm. And because it was in that warm golden tone, it made everybody's teeth look whiter. So that's what really, it's not that lipstick looked good on everybody. But I think they liked the appeal that their teeth looked whiter, so that's why it caught for a while.
Awesome. No, that's a great tip. I think the lip gloss piece is literally like a polish. You think of nail polish being pretty and shiny and just finished, and the lip gloss piece seems to really help with that too. So grab your gloss, swoop a little bit on, and it's better than nothing. Way better than dry lips, because obviously,
oh my goodness, yes. Make sure your lips are good. Make sure you have lip balm close by too, because you want to keep. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. Well, I'm going to scoot us shortly to the rapid fire questions to end our little call here. But is there anything that anyone has questions about with regard to anything we've heard? Because we kind of got the full makeover today. So thank you, Sue.
Oh, sure. My pleasure.
Yeah. Hope, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just one. And I'm so with you. My new thing for all these online is I keep some kind of a lip crayon at my desk at all times now, no matter what. The lip liner. So I've heard of this tip, and I used to use lip liner a lot, and I would fill it in, and then if you put anything on top, it stays so much longer. But as I'm approaching 50, I turned 49 this year. I'm getting like little feathery, and I'm not a smoker. But I've heard like sometimes when people smoke, it's like something that used to work for me in the past. It's like, oh my gosh, when I do that, it like bleed. I'm saying feather, it like the lip liner.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Little lines that are in the lip area. So I'm going to guess that Sue's going to talk about a primer. A lip primer.
So there is, just how there's a face primer for your face, there is a lip primer. And so I would recommend putting a lip primer on, and also making sure, and even, what I would recommend first is taking that little bit of BB cream that you're using, Hope, or a CC cream, whatever, put that over your lips as well, because that kind of gives a nice you know, slate. Everything is, when you layer things, they last longer. So put a little bit of that, then put a lip primer on, and then the lip liner. And make sure you have a good quality lip liner too, because really the purpose of a lip liner is to keep your lipstick from bleeding. So if the all lip liners are not created equal. I will tell you just how all lipsticks are not. And I'm not saying you've got to go spend a lot of money, but a good quality lip liner should not bleed. Okay, so you want to make sure you're using that a lip liner, and then you can put your lipstick or your lip crayon or something on over that. So hopefully,
yeah, and I think that's perfect. In a pinch, I've used like just a little bit of the foundation that I have nearby, or even, you know, anything to get to provide a barrier, hope, between the skin and the lip liner color.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love it. Great. Okay. Ready, Sue? We're running to the end of our little time today. So quick, fun, rapid fire, get to know Sue a little better kind of stuff. So question number 1, what book is on your nightstand right now that you're reading?
Okay. So I
And
love
can you
books.
think of one thing that you're learning?
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I am all about Audible. So if I said it was on my nightstand, I would be not saying the truth, but I am all about, well, I will still say I've got 2 things. All right. First of all, I do have the 100 day, this year, back in January 1st, my whole year was dedicated to gratitude. So I have this book, The 100 Day of Thanks, that you have to write down 3 things you are grateful for every night before you go to bed. And that is something that I just recommend to everybody. But the book that I really love is 30 Days, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life by Mark Reclau. And I am all about habits, because habits determine everything. And you change a couple different habits and it can change the whole, we all have 24 hours in a day, right? It's what do you use with those 24 hours, and you will be so much more productive. So that, to me, I recommend to everybody.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay. What is the last place you traveled when you stepped off the tarmac?
It was Marco Island with my family. We love Marco Island. And
awesome.
That's actually where I was when I was talking to you for the very first time. So
that's right.
It was, yep, would love it.
She took her vacation time to chat with me about becoming a consultant about 15 years ago, and there she was on Marco Island.
I just clicked with Cindy. I gave up vacation time to spend with her because I just love talking to her.
Okay, a fun family recipe that you would not tell the secret recipe to anyone, but it's amazing, and it came from a grandmother, grandfather, something that's unique to your family. Do you have one?
The funny thing about that is that it's cooking in my kitchen right now, and it's actually my husband. My husband is Italian, and his mother, Letty Speciali, has the most Italian. Well, they call it gravy. For if you're really Italian, they call it gravy, but I call it spaghetti sauce. But she left the recipe with him, so he's cooking it, and so we have it probably once a week. It's amazing.
Wow, I love it. Do you share that recipe? Because if you do, send it my way.
I will ask my husband, and yes, we probably
Come on, Frank,
would.
Give it up.
Yeah.
Okay, we're down to the last 2. A teacher or mentor who changed your life?
You know, as cliche as this probably sounds, but it probably was Mary Kay Ash, because being in Mary Kay, she just had such wisdom. I love speaking to older people because they have such wisdom. She didn't start the company until she was like 50 years old. And she learned from so many other people, but about, first of all, taking God as your partner, and also doing unto others as you'd have them do unto you, like with the morals and the integrity that she ran her company with, and honesty are virtues that you just don't see in today's age. And she opened me up to this whole world of positivity. Yeah. And Brian Tracy's my other go-to. $1 Million Habits. Okay. That's a huge thing. I recommend that to anybody.
Yes, I would agree with what you said about Mary Kay Ash. When you gave me that book when I first started, I thought, oh, all right.
Yes.
I'll read it. But, you know, I've actually given that book to people who have a need for motivation of any kind. I mean, it is not about makeup. The book is about driving yourself to be the best person that you can be. And her personal story is truly amazing.
Well, it's taught at Harvard Business School. They teach her plan at Harvard Business School. So it shows you how.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it's very universal. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And then if you were stuck on a desert island, what one product for your face if you thought you might be televised or photographed, right?
Yes.
Would you take with you? What one piece of, what product? And I think I know the answer. You kind of told us, but.
Yeah, it probably would have to be my under eye corrector, because in a pinch, this does your under eyes in here, but you could put it, you know, in other parts of your face to give you that overall. It's portable, it's easy, and it's really like almost one color fits all. To me, it's just, I like simplicity.
Yep, absolutely. Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, welcome, Vicki. I'm gonna pause my recording shortly, but I'm gonna keep Vicki on for a second to sort of chat with her, and hope if you have to scoot, that's totally understandable. But thank you, Sue, so much. I really learned a lot about makeup mastery and helping us all get better at our Zoom calls and making the most of our faces with a quick 5-minute dash out the door, dash to the dining room table kind of look. So really appreciate your time and expertise today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for inviting me.